Wir nähern uns jetzt ein bisschen dem Thema smarter, grüner, dem Thema Nachhaltigkeit und Klimaschutz und wir machen frisch gestärkt weiter auf Englisch. So it's obviously all about multimodality. We want to move as smooth and fast as possible, and we want to do that smarter and greener. How the company Uber wants to contribute its share will be explained by Annabel Diaz-Calderon from Uber. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Romina.
Oh, we have a connection. That's great. So please explain to me, what does multimodality mean for Uber?
Well, multimodality for us is actually the essence of the future of mobility. As we look ahead, we see that mobility is indeed a multimodal and platform integrated solution that provides consumer more affordable, reliable, user-friendly, and available to everyone access to all the possible alternatives. And with full transparency of the implications that are chosen by the consumers, implications in terms of cost, implications in terms of carbon footprint, implications in terms of time to destination, etc. And with that is a cohesive platform integrating, as I say, all the options in mobility that we have available today, but also in the future, including rideshare, including public transportation, including micro-mobility, including, in the future, autonomous cars and taxis.
Well, I'm sure that COVID had a tremendous effect on your business as well. What steps needed to be taken to adapt to the situation?
Yeah, you're right. COVID has been a significant impact for the business this year. It was especially impactful during the second quarter, as obviously restrictions had to be applied very quickly when we all realized the severity of the pandemic, and mobility was almost totally locked down in the majority of our geographies across the region, and again, very, very rapidly. We pivoted pretty fast during that second quarter in two ways. First of all, we focused on finding alternative business lines that could help the society needs at that point in time. Mm-hmm. One example is our Uber Medic product that we introduced in many cities, helping move healthcare workers safely from and to hospital or other care centers. But we also invested quite a lot in improving actually the safety of our service. Safety has been a fundamental topic in our business all these years. This year, it has included a more focus on health safety for obvious reasons. And we introduced several improvements in terms of the way we manage the platform, but also physically in the cars, partitions, PPEs, etc., etc. The summer, however, when restrictions were lifted, we saw a pretty healthy recovery in the majority of the cities and the geographies we operate, even when many of our business segments are still depressed. Obviously, travel, tourism, etc. Still, again, we saw a pretty healthy recovery, which gives us a lot of hope and confidence about the business and the future and our resilience. But more importantly, and probably the point that is in line with this conference, we saw through this pandemic, I think the entire society, this window of opportunity of reconsidering the world, right? We have also seen how a reduced mobility and a healthier cities could look like. And we have used this opportunity to actually boost our sustainability strategy, which has shaped up strongly at the global level and also obviously at European level, something we are extremely proud of and extremely committed to push forward in the coming years.
So you also see it as a chance to move on and try new innovations. What kind of innovations are planned for Uber to not only be more modern and innovative, but also greener?
Yeah, well, first of all, there is one fundamental aspect that we want to convey very clearly, is that The challenge is massive. It's still massive in the transportation industry and the mobility industry, and we definitely can't do this alone. We are very aware of that, and we are inviting several cooperations, actually building very strong cooperations with governments, with cities, and all partners in the ecosystem in order to drive this transformation. With that said, indeed, we also are very willing to take our part of the leadership position that we have, and to your point, accelerate the changes that we have and we can do, actually. And these changes have three pillars that I would like to probably talk about. The first one is, and the most difficult one, is helping our drivers to transition to less emission and more, or actually zero emissions vehicles. Actually, right now, electrical vehicles. That's a big challenge because, as we know, the total cost of ownership and the total cost of operating an electric vehicle today is not comparable to traditional vehicles. And so therefore, we all need to help and facilitate this transition for the drivers to make this gap narrow so that they can basically switch. That's one of the topic. How do we get there? To your specific question, we are deploying actually a significant amount of resources in order to reduce that gap, including, for example, funds that drivers will have access to in the moment they decide to do this transition, but also including partnerships with different industries in the ecosystem. Partnerships such as the one we recently have with Volkswagen, that drivers will have access to used e-vehicles so that they can make this transition, or also partnerships with charging operators to have discounts and to have private or privileged access to charging. So first of all, reducing this gap of the cost of ownership for the drivers so that they can make the transition through creating partnerships, creating discounts, access to cheaper vehicles. But not only. The other one is we are actually more and more integrating in our platform, and we plan to keep doing so, other forms of mobility that are more sustainable. Micromobility, but also transit, what we call transit, which is our cooperation with our public transport operators into our app. And those are cooperations and integrations that are already live in many cities around the world, and particularly in Europe, in Lisbon or in London. So that's the second topic. And the third topic is actually more transparency. We want to be more clear and transparent to the entire society about the emissions that the platforms are contributing and how we are reducing actually our footprint at a global level and in the future also at a more granular level. So those are the three key areas of work that we do ourselves. Meanwhile, I want to insist, we want to keep partnering with cities and governments so that we find solutions together. And we partner also for policymakers to consider actually professionals when they are the specific professional segment of transportation, when they are considering incentives and they are considering policies in the way forward.
So am I getting you right that you will not stand in that competition alone, but you're planning to work together with different mobility services in general and to be more connected in the future with everything?
That's absolutely right. Yes. We plan and we welcome those cooperations.
And Uber is still, even if you switch to electric vehicles, it's still a car service. And in the discussion with the climate change and everything, the car is a little bit mentioned the bad cop in this discussion. What is Uber planning to stand up in that competition to hold up with public transportation and all the green solutions that we will have in the future?
Yeah, no, well, again, transforming our, bad cars, our contaminating cars into nicer cars, which are less contaminating. That's part of the game. We still believe we will need cars, But yes, you're right. There are other solutions that can help reducing the carbon footprint. And that's exactly why we invite the multimodality of our platform. And we will incorporate all those solutions in the platform, including, as I say, micromobility, public transportation, and other pooling solutions that basically overall we increase the efficiency of the transportation. At the end, the more utilization of the vehicle, the higher the utilization is, the more efficient it is, more affordable it is, and less carbon footprint.
What is your personal way to travel at the moment? What do you think is your favorite? What do you choose?
Well, I don't travel.
At the moment, we don't travel a lot, of course.
We don't travel a lot, but good question. So, as much as I can in the city, I walk. I try to live close to the places where I normally go to, and then as much as I can, I actually walk. And then for the transportations that I have to do that are longer distance, I use either a public transportation, train normally a lot in the Netherlands, or actually in the city when I cannot walk for whatever reason, then I use Uber.
Okay, could you imagine for Uber to also have more partnerships directly with, for example, e-scooters and other mobility services like micro-mobility?
Yeah, well, right now, actually, micromobility is indeed an integral part of our app, and is live today in many cities across Europe. But we plan to keep expanding this solution and these services that we are providing, absolutely, and have also a better way of providing visibility to the consumer of the entire travel choice that they can do and how they can combine the different solutions in the best way to reach their destination on time, and again, reducing footprint or cost.
I have a last question. What do you personally think? What is your personal wish for the future? Best case scenario from today, 5 years further, where would you like our world and our society to be regarded the mobility? Yeah,
well, we have made very strong commitments about that future and how we see it. And frankly, my wish will be that we exceed those commitments. Those commitments include that by 2025, we have actually converted our trips to 50% of the aggregated kilometers that we do in key cities in Europe are converted into zero emissions, but we also are committing that by 2030, we do replicate this model in many other cities globally when the conditions are possible. And by 2040, we are a total zero emissions platform. With that said, my personal wish is that we exceed those goals. I know the magnitude of the challenge is huge, and I know we have a long way to go, but I also, again, realize the benefits and the threat for this planet that we are all responsible to face and to do our utmost to improve.
So we want the goals to be achieved and not only wished for. That's a nice ending. Thank you so much, Annabelle. And we will move forward with our program.
Thank you so much for having us today. Thank you.
Thank you for being there.